And now, we've come to the portion of our show where we have to ask, what just happened? We can't believe it either, but let's take a look back at the insanity that was this week and look ahead to what will make us facepalm next week. This is What Just Happened on the Dean Ovidala Show. Take it away, Dean.
Thank you, announcer man. I will. I'm Dean Ovidala. It's Friday, May 24th. We're live. It's Memorial Day weekend, but we're here. We're working. I brought in a lot of immigrants and children of immigrants. They're the only ones who would work tonight. Oh, no, Scott's many generations. But we got three great people in studio for our weekly segment. We look back at the week, try to have some fun. Tonight's actually three Muslims and a Jew. That's what we're calling it tonight. It really is. We've got my good friend Scott Blakeman. We started Stand Up for Peace together. He's the Jewish guy. And you've seen him on everything from the White House Correspondents' Dinner coverage to one of the top little comics today. So, Scott, good to see you, my friend.
Great to be here, Dean, and great to be, for once, I'm the one providing diversity in the panel.
You are. And look who's back. Two people, they're friends of the show. They're regulars on the show. First, Atheer Yacoub, comedian. She has her own podcast, The No Fly List, performs all over. Has also made her TV debut with, both Access TV, but in the Middle East. What was the Middle East?
Comedy Central Arabia. I did a half hour.
Comedy Central Arabia.
Yeah.
Where can people see that? You have to fly to Dubai?
You got to fly to the Middle East. You have to have OSN. It's like their Showtime network. Yeah.
So you have OSN, Atheer Yacoub. When did it premiere?
A couple weeks ago.
It's exciting.
Week. Yeah.
Did you get marriage proposals? Even though I know you're getting married, did you hit were there any shakes going, hello, Atheer?
Well, I've ignored a lot of stuff on Instagram, so probably.
Oh, you have. And look who's back, journalist, right, for everything HuffPost to U.S. World and Report, our friend Nitha Khan.
Hello, Dean.
How are you, my friend?
Everyone? I'm good. How are you doing?
She was just telling about her root canal, but she's feeling much better.
It was horrible. I tweeted about it. I complained about it. I whined about it. I think everybody knows.
And now you're better.
And
you
now
sound
better.
fine.
And especially, because it ruined my favorite pastime, which is eating. I love food. I'm a foodie. I have no qualms about saying that. So it was just miserable. Like I couldn't eat anything. And then when I could, it was only on the other side of my mouth. It was horrible.
I've never had a root canal. I've had a few cavities in my life, but it's never, I don't know what the pain went through, but you have our sympathy.
And then, getting infected. So it was pain meds, antibiotics, the whole nine. Mm-hmm. But I'm here.
Well, thank you all for being here. And the three of us, it's Ramadan, so thank you.
Yes.
Happy Ramadan.
Yes, Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak means happy Ramadan. So let's talk about there are a lot of big issues. I want to talk about this one issue. We're going to get to the Trump-Pelosi stuff because it lends itself to comedy. I want to talk about something that didn't get much press, and I think it's actually important. And later we'll get into a more serious issue. But that is, as everyone might recall, President Obama said that Harriet Tubman would be on the $20 bill in 2020. At a time when that happened, Trump called it political correctness and pure political correctness, and he likes Andrew Jackson, blah, blah, blah. But then we found out this week, Secretary of Treasury Mnuchin testified, and Ayanna Pressley, the congressman from Massachusetts, questioned him, and he goes, nope, no, Harriet Tubman, not so fast. It's not coming till after Trump leaves the White House. So what do you guys think about the real reason he won't replace a white guy with a black woman on the $20 bill? Let's start. Atheer?
Besides the fact that he's a blatant racist.
The winning answer.
Supports a slave owner. And what's wrong with it's not political correctness. It's like the least that you could do to honor this woman instead of the man who enslaved and oppressed thousands of people and Native Americans. So I don't know. I think anything that makes people even remotely feel equal or happy or like human, Trump is going to fight against.
And he went even further. He actually said, well, maybe she could be on like a $2 bill, so let's demean her even more.
God.
But frankly, I think the real truth is he wants himself on the bill like every other dictator in the world.
He's a narcissist, of course.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He wants. There's no doubt he envisions himself on some currency somewhere. Maybe
Wonder
Russia.
Currency.
But it's just, it's basically a continuation of what we've seen this entire time. And for those of us who paid attention to him even decades ago, going back decades and decades here in New York. So it's that same division, the culture war, all of that. And you're just going to see that exacerbate even more so as we get closer and closer to the 2020 election. And it's just an insult to women, to people of color, and especially women of color, saying that, you're not worthy of being on here, and once again, dismissing dismissing their achievements and accolades, and like you said, rectifying just a tiny semblance. This is not rectifying anything remotely.
It's nothing. Yeah.
And just we
It's
talk
a gesture.
about
It's a small gesture.
Exactly, and we talk about reparations. It's like we can't even get this. So how can we even have a conversation, a real discussion about something like that?
And one of the ancestors of, one of the relative descendants of Harriet Tubman, Ernestine Wyatt, was on CNN and said it smacks of racism. And it clearly does. They're not going to do it until he leaves office, at least 2028. Even though under Obama they said they were going to do it in 2020, Trump has stopped it. I think it's more likely he would put David Duke on a $20 bill.
Well,
Maybe
anything,
$100.
anything is based with life. But first of all, Andrew Jackson also, and by the way, to me, his only claim to fame is like people like me. I confuse him with Andrew Johnson, who I wish Trump associated with because he was impeached. But Andrew Jackson also was responsible for the trails of tears and hundreds of thousands of Native Americans were killed. But he's just. My question is, why is he allowed to do it? And I think Jean Shaheen is putting the bill. The Congress should be able to vote on this and take some things out of his hand, and they should do it. We'll talk about later with abortion, but certainly with this, why don't they just?
But then they have to override. They have to give enough support to override his veto, and that's the challenging part because they can pass a law, and he'll say, "I'm not signing your law. I'm going to veto it." And then it goes back, and you're going to need 20 Republican senators to come over, and that is still such a tall order because they are still more loyal to Trump than American values because they're afraid of losing and being primary in the next election. And that's what they're about. Right. I've never seen a more timid, cowardice legislature as I've seen of the Republicans during the time of Trump. Justin Amash comes out, the one Republican saying Trump should be impeached, and they tar and feather, they attack Amash. Even his buddies from the Freedom Caucus, they're saying he's a liberal and all that stuff. He's one of the most conservative guys ever. He's a libertarian, but
Freedom Caucus.
Right, he was one of the founders of the Freedom Caucus in 2015, and it's remarkable to see this timidity that. Have Democrats been this bad? Are we missing something?
See, I wouldn't even say it's timidity. I would say it's very strategic because remember, these Republicans are also getting a bunch of things that they've always wanted. They wanted the Supreme Court justices, the conservative ones. Sorry, I'm still losing my voice here. The conservative ones, and a whole bunch of laws and things that they want to get through and bills, including abortion bans. So this is why they're staying silent and co-signing so much of his behavior because they're getting stuff through that they haven't been able to get through even in decades.
That's part of it. But by the way, to Scott's point, what currency do you think Trump would be fitting to be on? Like, what would it be?
Well,
would it be
a
a
ruble,
coin?
probably.
A penny.
A monopoly bill?
A penny, because a penny is basically worthless at this point. So,
That'd be a penny. I like the ruble. To me, is the big thing. Some foreign currency, whatever Putin's favorite is. I wonder if Putin's on a coin or a dollar or something in Russia.
Probably.
So we're not going to have Harriet Tubman and.
Well, did you hear about the artist that created the stamp with Harriet Tubman on it? And he's got like thousands and thousands of people to just stamp her picture on the face of Andrew Jackson. Yeah, he's
nice.
from New York, so he already sold like 5,000 stamps. So you can do something about this, guys. Yeah, go buy his stamp.
Stamp it.
Yeah.
I wonder, as long as people are going to take the $20 bill, they're going to be like.
Could they not? Well, maybe a Trump supporter. If enough of them are in circulation, maybe,
Right.
Right.
And also getting back, someone like Steve Mnuchin, who, I was saying earlier before we got on the air how Trump's horrible behavior just masks the horrible behavior of the people around him who do these horrible things. And he is a disgusting guy into the picture, wife with the whole excess and the whole thing. And they have why can't any of them just say, you know what, I'm going to stand up for something. And if I get kicked out or if I lose, I'll do something else. There's not one person except for the ones who are resigning who have any courage at all. It's not even courage, it's just standing up for the right thing. And even though, and look, there are plenty of bad Republicans out there who'll get those policies through, but to put up with someone who's literally tearing down our country and literally does not believe in democracy and is acting as a dictator, can't they settle for just a bad conservative instead of what we have? So
I know you would think so, but I mean, just look at what happened in 2016. Like all the never Trumpers, all of them, how quickly they flipped, how quickly they fell in line. And that's one thing, and I know I've said this on your show before, but that Republicans do so well is the falling in line. Whereas Democrats, like, we still haven't resolved our issues from 2016. It's still continuing, and I'm actually worried about 2020 if we're ever going to resolve those. The Hillary versus Bernie, the progressive versus the base. I mean, the establishment. So we need to learn from the Republicans in terms of everybody coalescing and coming together.
Not going to happen.
When whoever
We're wired different. We're just wired differently.
I know.
We're more independent thought.
I know.
We're not about. We have an ongoing debate this week and the week before on pushing Nancy Pelosi to push for impeachment of Donald Trump. And so you have a well-intentioned debate among people, but some have called them, have been outraged at Speaker Pelosi and saying this is ridiculous and I might not vote in 2020, but we don't mean that because Trump is so horrific. Everyone goes, I'm going to vote, of course. But if Trump was not that bad, you might have some people who would maybe check out if you're going to say, well, we're going to take the House over and we're going to act no different than Paul Ryan would have. Although I think we're doing a lot more oversight. I'm not making light of what we're doing. But if you're saying the ultimate is you have an impeachment hearing because Trump has committed crimes, which he has, at least an impeachment inquiry. That's what I'm pushing for. If you're not going to do that, and 70% of the base, 62 to 70% of the base want it, if 62 to 70% of the GOP base wanted something, they deliver that. I can assure you they would be
even a
delivering
majority of Americans wanted, not only the base, a majority of Americans are actually
inquiry. It's like on the edge,
right?
So that's the thing.
Although I would say one thing in her favor. First of all, how disgusting that video thing is and demeaning. And she has never been a great speaker. I mean, a great public speaker. I think she's been an effective speaker.
Very good, though.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
No, but also she was responsible for the Affordable Care Act happening. But everybody else who dropped is going to happen. She drove it through. I think she's savvy. And I agree with her on this. I think clearly the low bar set by Bill Clinton clearly is much worse. It is impeachable. But the bottom line is we all want Trump to be out. Inauguration 2021, he can't be there. And I am afraid that he wants impeachment proceedings. It'll play
We're
to
going
his
to talk about
base.
that because I'm really torn. I don't subscribe to that philosophy that Speaker Pelosi said, even though I have the greatest respect for her. And I keep pointing out to people who, fellow progressives, get mad that I'll go after Speaker Pelosi sometimes. I'm compartmentalizing. I like her a lot. I don't like her position on this issue, let's say. I like her a lot on many other issues. So why don't we take a break and come back and go through the brawl that happened, for like 3 days it took cable news, and we'll play some clips of some of the brawl at the mall right after this. You're listening to the Dino Bidala Show, where we crush Trump's lies every single day.
On SiriusXM Progress 127.
Your entire week's exhausted news broken down into one hilarious hour. What Just Happened is now live with Dean Obeidallah.
And welcome back to the Obeidallah Show. What just happened? We said that a lot. First, the segment name, but I mean, we say that during the Trump administration. And while there are some really important issues, and we're going to get into them, and I talked about them earlier in the show, something happened this week where we saw I think an unprecedented brawl between the third highest ranking person in government, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, with the number one person ranked in the government, and the third ranking person got the best of Trump. And that's very clear. Here's Colbert on the meeting that Trump stormed out of. Here's clip number 9, please.
Pelosi and Chuck Schumer headed over to the White House for a pre-scheduled meeting on their infrastructure deal. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month, the Democrats proposed $1 trillion infrastructure deal, and Trump said, "Why not $2 trillion?" So they said, "Okay." Today it was just supposed to be hammering out the details and then Venmoing the cash with a little bridge emoji or something like that. Didn't work out that way. According to people in the room, Trump walked in, didn't shake anyone's hand or take a seat, and left before anyone else could speak. All told, it was over in 3 minutes. According to Stormy Daniels, that's 2 bonus minutes.
Big laughs. Boom! Drop the mic. Simple, silly joke, but it crushed on national TV. So clearly, and I want to play a little clip of Pelosi here, clip number 12, which really got under Trump's skin. Let's hear clip number 12.
I pray for the President of the United States. I wish that his family or his administration or his staff would have an intervention for the good of the country.
And then in response today, this is Donald Trump whining because he's the king of victimhood, the orange snowflake and White Walkers, I like to call him. Clip number 4.
What do you hope to accomplish with your personal attacks on the speaker? You're saying flaw speech. Excuse me. This just shows how fake you and the news are. When you say a personal attack, did you hear what she said about me long before I went after her? Did you hear? She made horrible statements. She knows they're not true. She said terrible things. So I just responded in kind. Look, you think Nancy's the same as she was? She's not. Maybe we can all say that.
How many children of divorced parents are going, I've heard this before. You know, like when I was younger, my parents were like this. What's remarkable is I love that Nancy Pelosi in that intervention comment got so under Trump's skin today in front of all the press, the Marine One behind him, the helicopter. He's like, did you hear what you said about me? Why is it Nancy Pelosi is so effective at getting under Trump's skin? This is not the first time. She's really effective. Nida, Atheer?
Is it just her though, or is it everybody?
This seems to be unique, and I'll tell you why.
She's just good at it.
Yeah.
I think she's good at it. She knows how to do it. Mm-hmm. But honestly, like me personally, I'm just tired of all of it. I'm tired of.
I understand. Don't ruin that yet. Let's get into it. Okay. Let's get because
the theater of the absurd. I'm tired.
I am, but this was unique in that it was the Speaker of the House, not like some random person that Trump had an issue with. But what is it? I mean, it got so crazy that Rudy Giuliani tweeted out a doctored video of Nancy Pelosi. Trump tweeted out an edited video, not the doctored one, an edited video. And then Sebastian Gorka, remember Gorka? I've got to play. This is real. This is not a parody. No, Gorka. He is a day-walking vampire from Transylvania. Here he is today. We'll play some of it. Where's the Gorka video? Number 14. This is completely real. This is not a parody. I'm not kidding you. This came out, clip 14.
I knew this day would come, but I didn't expect it so soon. Thanks to the actions and statements of Nancy Pelosi in the last 48 hours, the president has brought forth his decision, and the Kraken has been unleashed. With his decision tonight to allow the Attorney General to declassify any information relating to the illegal surveillance against his presidential campaign and his administration, we will find out who began the biggest political scandal in American history and where the responsibility lies.
What horrible sci-fi movie is that from?
What? That's so creepy.
That's Sebastian Gorka. That's real.
It just sounds ridiculous.
This is not, folks. That wasn't a joke. That was not Saturday Night Live. That was not James Dominion. Right? It wasn't someone doing. That is really Gorka going, I knew this day would come. Like, this is a weird thing, and literally saying the Kraken has been unleashed.
So ominous.
Any acting coach? No, please, let's bring it down.
Right.
No, and he was a high-ranking advisor, and still is probably probably has his ear. But this is the thing.
They've
It's
all been
it's-
triggered. They're all triggered by Nancy Pelosi. No, Rudy Giuliani, Gorka, Trump.
Yeah, well,
she
because
got
they
under
feel
all their
threatened. I
skin.
think.
They do. Why is that?
Well,
though?
they were that way with Hillary too.
She's a
you know,
powerful woman.
And I think, and she is very savvy politically, and this is the first time she really did sort of strike back personally. But I think she knows what she's doing. That's why, then getting back to the impeachment thing, is she feels if she could damage the president and let him damage himself, which is what he does every day, so it wouldn't really have a need to actually go through the actual inquiry. But it's, but as you were saying earlier, we've heard this so much, and we need to keep talking about it. But it is so. And why doesn't anybody just go, this is just unacceptable?
It is, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Media for 2.5 days, it's like the Super Bowl for them. Because this has been insane. Like and they had Senator
It's good
Tom
video.
Cotton on.
Yeah.
Senator Tom Cotton is pressing for a war in Iran. He's on MSNBC. The first question is, what do you think of the feud between Nancy and Trump?
And that's
Nancy
my
and
problem.
Trump? We're on the verge potentially of war.
Right.
We're sending 1,500 troops. We're not on the verge of war, but you can
Escalation.
see the path in front of us where we might be going. He was literally on to talk about the war because he's advocating for the war in a way. At least he's advocating for more tensions, let's put it that way.
Right.
And their first question, what do you think of the fighting?
Exactly. Or the fact that, sorry not to cut you off, but how
It's okay,
the
it's your
Pentagon
show.
even, sorry, Dean, but how the Pentagon even said this week that they're going to change, basically alter the rules in how they give information to Congress, which is supposed to have oversight over what the military is doing. And now they want to change those regulations. So it's like you're going to inhibit the people that are supposed to be a check on you. And that's a huge deal. And nobody's talking about that. There's like a million stories that we're not focusing on and talking about. And instead, it's like you said, the first question is about that. And I get it. It's like, she's the most powerful person here. He's the president of the United States. So, of course, you have to cover it. But my problem is the incessant, nonstop, 24/7.
They love
aspect
it's
of it.
reality show soap opera-ish. In fact, I think instead of breaking news stuff from now on, where they're going to cover this is the music that should play underneath. Let's do clip number 3.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
It's the soap opera, say the days of our lives. And I really feel like Trump is sucking the sands of my life away from me here. I want to play one thing. Trevor Noah had a great show last night. I want to play one really funny joke near the top. It's about Nancy Pelosi and her saying pray for you and stuff like that. Here's clip number 1.
The only information we have is what people have said. And by the sounds of it, it was tense.
Democrats say they were stunned, and Pelosi, in a letter to House Democrats, called it a temper tantrum.
To watch what happened in the White House would make your jaw drop.
In any event, I pray for the President of the United States, and I pray for the United States of America.
Ooh, I pray for the president? I feel like Nancy Pelosi's been spending a bunch of time with Maxine Waters, because now every time she patronizes Trump, have you noticed, she seems more and more like a black auntie? Have you felt that vibe? Yeah, because first she gave Trump the sideways clap. Yeah. And now she's praying for him. That's the blackest thing ever. Just like, Lord, this crazy man needs Jesus. He needs Jesus.
I thought it was really well done by Trevor, who, is really coming to his own over there on The Daily Show. So there was so much, I don't know in the long run what it matters. On some level, I had various members of Congress on this week, and one of them who was on the fence about supporting impeachment inquiry, Ro Khanna, who I like very much, he's one of the most progressive members of the House, said, I think Nancy Pelosi is winning the way she's doing it. And I think that is making me not push further for actually an impeachment inquiry this time. And I found that interesting because I think there were others who were like, Nancy is winning. She clearly, if you're talking about, if winning is unnerving Trump, she's winning. If winning is getting all the documents from him and prosecuting for impeachment, she's not. But there was a sense, though, of this intangible of winning. Has what Nancy Pelosi did this week to Trump added to two tangible things, or two district court judge opinions, federal judges ruling in favor of Democrats on issues of getting financial records and Deutsche Bank records? Does it impact your view? Like, I didn't ask. Let's go around first. Do you support impeachment inquiry right now, Nitha, or do you
absolutely
think now?
And yeah,
right
absolutely. Now. And I think wait.
Let's just go around the thing first.
Fine,
Scott, no,
no,
not yet.
Not yet.
Yes.
Atheer, 2-1. Sorry, Scott. The three Muslims said impeachment inquiry.
Well, I want him out, but just the best way. No,
Scott, so tell me, did it affect your opinion at all on that, or was that your view
no, because I
before?
think he should. Like he's been unfit for office from day one. There's no question of that. I'm just thinking, what's the best way to get him out? And I do think that in his way, and if it does go, because first of all, we can't win in the Senate. That's unfortunate. That's a given. Right. And I think that the way it comes out this way, it's going to come out. Also, the way they're stonewalling and not letting people testify and having Barr as his personal attorney and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of this is going to be worse than whatever the revelations were in the Mueller report. I think it is going to come to haunt him, and I think this is the way to do it, because unfortunately, if it's an impeachment inquiry, he can spin that in a way like, hey, see, and there was nothing or something. So I think we all want the same thing here, but I think the best way to do it is to do what
Free
she's
ice
doing.
cream?
See,
I hear chocolate chip.
I hear what you're saying, but I feel like Trump is still going to do that, right? Like
He is.
still,
He's gonna slither
He's going to
away.
spin this and be like, "See, I won. This is why they couldn't even try to impeach me. They couldn't try to do anything." And I feel like Democrats always throw in the towel before the fight has even fully begun.
Well, to keep
So it's like-
investigating, but just not say we want to impeach, because then it becomes all about him, which he doesn't want. I mean,
but
it
it's
is
already
about,
all about him, right?
Yeah.
And if you look, it's not only, like I was saying, it's not only the base. A majority of Americans do want impeachment to go through. And yes, it won't go through the Senate, but at least to go through the process and get more out there and get more public attention. Because right now, the Republicans have primarily shaped the narrative, and Democrats have not been able to do that as effectively. So if you draw this out and go through the process as well too, you bring more sunlight to what has gone down and break it down for people too, and get your communication and your messaging together and say, this is what this man has done. And then, and I think that's what even the Democratic base wanted. And this is why so many of them voted for Democrats in 2018. So it's like they put certain people in office to hold him accountable. So if you're not, placating to them, then you're just once again abandoning your base.
I would just say that I think with these existing oversight committees do have the same powers more or less, and I think they're going to get to it, and I think that
Atheer, you're the tiebreaker.
Yes.
What do you think?
I agree with Nida, I think.
Yay.
Sorry,
No,
Scott.
no,
You got to stick with my Muslim sister.
That's right.
Hopefully, if this show goes well, we'll have 4 Muslims by the end of it.
Scott,
Never
that
know.
ruins our stand up for peace show.
yeah.
It can't
We
be
have to have
2
that.
Muslims come in to make peace in your school. It's got to be
I
a
have
Jewish
performed
and a
at
Muslim.
many mosques.
Sorry,
It's
Scott.
the conversion show on
Yeah.
the, on the
Scott,
road.
imagine if Scott said to me, Dean, I'm thinking about converting to Islam. I'm like, not until we get all our shows done.
Right.
Come on. So, Atheer, you think?
Well, I do think it needs to be out there. I think the evidence needs to be shown and come to light. I don't think that anything will happen, or I think he'll still slither away and find some way out of it. But I think we still need to go through the process.
Here's the one thing I don't get. I mean, we had theories we bantered about. I want to play Nancy Pelosi saying Trump wants to be impeached. And I'd love to get your view on whatever theory of why you think that's correct or incorrect. Here's clip 13, please.
Because I said cover up. We've been saying cover up for a while. And our 9 o'clock meeting was a meeting we have anyway. So it had nothing to do with him. But I think what really got to him was these court cases and the fact that the House Democratic Caucus is not on a path to impeachment. And that's where he wants us to be. And when he saw that that was not happening, that, again, with the cover-up, which he understands is true, just struck a chord.
So, Scott, do you subscribe to the same philosophy that Donald Trump truly wants impeachment to happen, and somehow that is actually good for him in some way?
I do, because that's the only way he can win, even though he's clearly guilty. But right now, if it goes along this way, stuff is coming out. He's stonewalling. He can't do that forever. There are 10 examples of obstruction of justice that Mueller put forth that he was no exoneration,
right?
Or it's a hoax. It can't be both.
It clearly said it was not exoneration.
Yeah,
and
and
clearly
so
the report
all
wrote that
this
black
stuff
and
needs
white.
work, and it will be handled this way. But I do think an impeachment thing, he will say, "See, they put me on trial, and I got off." Because the Republicans, and I do think that could put him over the top in 2020, which would be catastrophic. So we all here tonight, we want the same thing, but I do think investigating through these committees, bringing all this stuff out, will have the same effect, and will get him out of office.
Atheer, any view on this? Do you think Donald Trump wants to be impeached? Is it about ego? He likes everyone talking about him? Do you think there's something else where I'm missing? I don't get it.
I don't think he wants to be impeached. I mean, I don't think he'd try this hard to win the next election. And he's too much of a narcissist to step down or be forced out of office. So I think he likes the attention around it, I'm sure. Right. But I don't think he actually wants to be out of office.
What I guess when they say impeach, they mean just having impeachment. Because
the actual removal.
Yeah, just the House.
Just to have the,
Just to have the very special episode of the Trump presidency will be, this is the impeachment episode.
Yeah. And then the verdict.
What do you
big
think, before I share my view on all this? Go ahead. Please,
About
what do you think? Do you think he really does want to be impeached? It actually plays to him and helps him somehow objectively in the long run.
Well, yeah, and like I said, I hear what you're saying, Scott, but I think he's going to do that regardless. Like, even if the impeachment proceedings don't go through right now, if it doesn't happen, he's still going to say, look, they did this investigation, the Mueller report, 400 some pages, and I did nothing wrong. Your president did nothing wrong. And he's going to definitely use this in 2020. And I just feel like the Democrats really need to show fight. Like, imagine if the tables were turned, how much outrage Republicans would be feigning right now, throwing everything against the wall, saying, oh my God, this man is a crook. This man, you could just imagine what would happen if it was flipped around.
Well, the hypocrisy of Lindsey Graham, who about Bill Clinton said, well, you don't have to commit a crime to be impeached. And now,
exactly.
So
exactly. So that's my biggest thing.
The reason to me that I think that Nancy Pelosi's view on it helping Trump would be true if something else was not true here. If Donald Trump only had approval, say, of 50% of the Republicans, then they might rally around him if he's being impeached and they feel it's unfair. But in reality, he has 85 to 90% of the GOP base on his side. That's what poll after poll, even recent ones show. So you're not going to get more of your base on your side. I would agree with Speaker Pelosi if it was different. If he was not popular, Republicans, they checked out a little, then they feel sorry for the guy. Oh, look how bad the Democrats are. I think people in the middle and on the left certainly don't like Trump. Polls show that a solid majority think he's a liar. A solid majority think he's obstructed justice. Removing him is different. I think people are afraid of what that would mean for the United States of America. And going forward, what will that mean for the next Democratic president? We're going to have that. So I think there are more solid majority thinks he's not exonerated. He's done things wrong. Over 60, almost 60% thinks he's committed a crime before he came to office. So they think that Trump is a criminal. But I think it's so extraordinary and extreme to see the removal of a president who's been elected that I think a lot of Americans are just like, let's have the election 2020. And that's why you don't see poll numbers higher for let's have impeachment now. That's what I really think in my heart.
But poll numbers are pretty high in terms of wanting impeachment to go through.
Among Democrats.
And I think, actually,
it's kind of split.
Of a lot of Americans actually do. And I think
what poll are you talking about? The Nithicon poll? What are you talking about?
No, it's not the Nithicon poll, although I should do one of those.
You should do one. I've done a poll.
I might do one after the show on Twitter. And actually on Twitter, I had an interesting conversation this week with some other journalists about this fact where, people like Pelosi and a lot of centrist Democrats are more concerned with their own position, their own positions of power and their own hierarchy, and don't want to, they're concerned about that going away as well too. So you have to keep that in mind too. Like, they're not trying to rock the boat too much and their personal whatever. There is truth to that too.
No, I agree with you. And here, we don't need a comedic. We don't actually need a professional comedian. Here's Donald Trump being funny. Clip number 11, please.
So I came here to do a meeting on infrastructure with Democrats, not really thinking they wanted to do infrastructure or anything else other than investigate. And I just saw that Nancy Pelosi, just before our meeting, made a statement that we believe that the President of the United States is engaged in a cover-up. Well, it turns out I'm the most, and I think most of you would agree to this, I'm the most transparent president probably in the history of this country.
The most transparent president. The guy won't give his tax returns.
The most
transparent. In the history of the country, all countries, the whole world, everywhere. No one's been more transparent. You can see right through me right now. You can see what's behind me. Even though I didn't get my tax returns, I paid
he's always the opposite. So you just basically flip it. It's always the opposite.
It's unreal. All right, let's take a break, my friends. We're going to come back, play our little game, Guess Who Said It. We'll talk about another issue or two that's been the media has missed, if we can get into those as well, right here on the Dino Budala Show after this quick break.
The Kraken has been unleashed.
At this point, the question is not who connected to Donald Trump as a criminal. The question is anyone connected to Donald Trump who's not a criminal?
The Dean Obeidallah Show, SiriusXM Progress. listening to What Just Happened with everyone's favorite host, Dean Obidala.
And welcome back, Dean Obidala Show, live Friday, May 24th, right here at the beginning of Memorial Day weekend, playing our usual game, What Just Happened. And now it's time for the game within the game. Hit it, Lauren.
Now, it's time for America's newest game show sensation. Guess who's done it?
Okay, so here's the game. Scott, Nitha, Atheer. I will read you a quote and give you 12 guesses. That's a new part of the game. No,
12 guesses?
No, four guesses.
Wish the SATs had that.
72 guesses. It
I
takes
can't
about
pay
an hour to
attention.
read
Yeah.
this. We're going to keep the music under the entire game. That's a new thing now because Matt and Lauren had a big meeting and they go, "We're going to change the
Good
show.
choice.
That's what we're going to do." I like it. Ready? Here we go. First one. If you do racist things and say racist things, the question of whether that makes you a racist is almost academic. Who said that? Ro Khanna, it's a congressman, Pete Buttigieg, Congressman Mark Pocan, Congressman Jamie Raskin.
Buttigieg?
Pocan?
No.
I'll say Buttigieg.
Two of you got it right.
I should just go with you guys.
That's
Alabama
part of the
education.
okay, here we go. We do believe that it's important to follow the facts. We believe that no one is above the law, including the President of the United States, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Richard Blumenthal, or Gerald Nadler.
Was it?
We believe that
Gerald
no
Nadler.
is above the
Yeah, I think Nadler.
I'm going to go with them only because I don't know. Pelosi?
No,
Pelosi?
you're wrong.
Tell me you can't
Is
get
it
that.
Schumer?
All three of you got it wrong.
I wanted to go
Oh.
with Pelosi.
Was it
No, it
Schumer?
wasn't
That's a
Pelosi.
win for Lauren. Lauren gets a bonus
was
every
it?
time.
Was
you
it
get one.
Schumer?
No, it was Pelosi.
Oh, shit. I should
See?
have gone with my
Don't
first
go with
instinct.
us.
Oh, you
Don't
guys
go
seem
with us.
Here we
more...
They all thought it, but she was.
Yeah.
Here's regarding visiting a public school. I asked the girls in that group of 8th graders, how many of you girls think that the government should be telling us women when and if we want to have babies? And not a single one of them raised their hands. Was that Elizabeth Warren said that, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, or Mazie Hirono?
That's a hard one.
It is.
Say it again. Can you repeat it?
The
Sorry.
question was, she was talking about a visit to school, and there was all girls. She said, I asked the girls in that group of 8th graders, how many of you girls think that the government should be telling us, women, when and if we want to have babies? And not a single one of them raised their hands. Was it Liz Warren, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, and Mazie Hirono?
I was Elizabeth Warren.
That's between her and Kamala.
No.
I'll say-
Warren.
Wait,
Warren?
wait! You
Oh.
can't do the
Wait,
buzz
we're all
until
wrong.
I give the
Does it
final
go
answer.
automatically
What
for us?
kind of game is this? It's rigged.
All right.
Rigged
Warren?
it.
I
No.
say Warren. No.
I thought Warren.
I'll say
did.
Kamala.
It was Mazie Hirono.
That was I was debating between
I
Hirono and
remember
Warren. I'm like,
reading that.
I was trying to
I-
picture them
yeah.
saying it. They all could say it.
They
obviously.
all could
Exactly.
say- I was
Well,
trying
that
to
was
think of
Lauren's
who did
very
a
good
school
this week.
visit.
This is
Lauren
a very.
Matt-
This is like the
I thought it
Friday
was
Lauren and Matt,
crossword.
did you guys
It's
work
very-
together with this, or is it just Lauren? This is all pure Lauren. All right, here we go. The only thing House leadership has done is harass the president. The House leadership needs to urinate or get off the pot. Who said that? Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Bill Barr, or Republican Senator John Kennedy?
I think it was McConnell.
I'll say John Kennedy.
Oh, God.
Atheer for the
Who are the options?
McConnell, Graham, Bill Barr, John Kennedy.
I'm going to say McConnell.
It was John Kennedy.
'Cause he says those kind of
Right,
things. Yeah.
because he's from Louisiana.
Yeah,
You
he's a
gotta
straight
piece of it.
talker.
It's not grease through a goose. You know what I'm talking
It
about?
was,
I don't know
right.
what's going on.
So you won. Oh, we're still going. Oh,
Last
okay.
one.
Sorry.
Here's how
Embarrassing.
blind President Trump's devotion is to Fox News. He thought it would be good to air opposite the Game of Thrones finale. So he had his interview on against the Game of Thrones finale. So who said that? Rachel Maddow, Stephen Colbert, Anderson Cooper, or Seth Meyers?
It sounds like Seth.
Seth, yeah. Maybe. Or Rachel. Oh, God, I don't know.
You can't guess
Wait.
two. There's only four.
All right, I'll say Colbert because everybody else is saying
I'll say
something else.
Seth Meyers. Shit.
Anderson Cooper. This,
What?
you guys.
That's the last person
You
I would
guys.
for some
That's
reason.
why
I thought
Lauren.
it'd be-
Lauren, very good.
or-
These were. You guys
sucked.
collectively
We
did the
sucked.
worst. The worst ever.
It's not just me. Okay.
We should do what just happened about that segment. What the
just-
hell
yeah,
just
seriously.
happened
Yeah, that's right.
to that segment? I mean,
The music was
nothing-
great.
The
Good
music
job,
is what
music.
threw me off. You know, normally.
I think so. And the buzzers.
I need total
Yeah.
silence.
Yeah, exactly.
So
we need
what are you-
concentration.
I need Google.
Let's focus here for a second. Here. By the way, any big plans for Memorial Day? Let's be human beings for a second. Anything fun going on with you guys? Anything?
So my friend is trying to convince me to go to the beach. I'm like, are we
Oh, it's
really going to do this
cold.
on like Memorial Weekend?
Sunday's
And
gonna be
everyone and their
85.
mother is
That's
there.
what everyone
Yeah,
does.
don't do it.
I know, but it's going to be insane.
Atheer, you're
know.
going
I'm
home?
staying local. No, I'm going to Alabama next week. Yeah, but I'm going to stay local Monday.
Atheer's going to Alabama. She's from Alabama, where
I will not be getting pregnant there.
I was asking her, can you walk alone as a woman in Alabama?
Right,
That's
she
next.
needs a male escort.
Alabama's becoming the Christian version of Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's really ridiculous what's going on.
It's absolutely absurd. Yeah.
And Scotty, anything for you?
Going to Alabama, I think. No. I
Surprise!
Everyone's invited.
Because
Come
I
on
just,
over.
staying local. I actually live in 5 minutes from the beach in Brooklyn, so I like
nice.
walking.
Okay.
And I grew up there, so it's nice walking around things I didn't do when I was a kid. I walked around, but I was scared.
Scott's a walk.
I'm just going to walk the street, so you'll probably see me, is my point.
So let's talk about the GOP's effort to...
Wait, you didn't answer. What are you doing this weekend?
First I'm going to Paris, then I'll spend a few days in Cannes. No, I'm going nowhere.
You were there,
I was just on vacation. I was just on vacation.
That was an
in Paris.
amazing
You were
trip.
in Paris. I saw your
Paris
Facebook page.
and Cannes. I was living on life. That wasn't really my pictures, but yes, there was. There's a whole in the Louvre. They call it the Louvre there. There's a whole section on Islamic art now.
Yes,
Really?
you took
Yes,
saw the
there is.
picture.
Yeah.
But not as
robust as
right. Robust is a nice way of putting it. Not as much fun as like the sort of French Impressionist or Italian artists and stuff like that. A lot of calligraphy, I'm not even kidding. A lot of tombstones with Arabic writing on.
Really?
I'm not kidding because there is art in the Muslim world. Don't get me wrong, but it has not made its way to the Louvre, and there's not so much of like the Italian art and French art had to do with Jesus, had to do with they were religious. So obviously
There's
can't
actually a lot of Muslim art, so it's unfortunate.
Yeah, there's a lot of good.
It's always like an art, and there's someone missing in the middle. Like, who's that? That's the Prophet Muhammad. No, I'm kidding. It's not like that. You can't
Please don't instigate.
There's a reason there's no more Muslim art.
That's right. It's like, sorry, we can't do that one there. So Scott can't join in the Muslim reindeer games. I'm sorry, Scott. We're like, So
here called separation of church and state, and it's just
Had,
ridiculous.
actually.
Had past tense.
We were
That this
regressing.
is where we were just saying, like, we have to check the calendar to make sure it's 2019. And all of this once again is strategic. We were talking about this actually earlier outside. Make it so extreme where in Alabama people stopped paying attention. They made it. They tweaked it a little bit, had another version, and then it went through. And the Supreme Court
And they call
upheld it.
themselves conservatives, which is the most incredible. These are the most radical, reactionary. But and this evangelical Mike Pompeo, who's stirring up tensions with Iran too, is guided by this evangelical philosophy. They all have this, sense of doom, and the whole idiocy. And speaking as a Jewish American, Donald Trump has never been an American president worse for Israel, and next to Netanyahu, who's worse for Israel too. But so for American Jews to think when it's all about not Jews, they don't like Jews, they care about the rapture, and the Jews have to be in charge, so they'll be wiped out when they don't convert to Christianity.
Exactly.
So this is this. It is. I'm against all really, frankly, religious states.
By the way,
we become that.
No, but Scott, in Judaism, is there a set rule on abortion? Is there anything?
It's not. No, I've heard it's not. Certainly not in Christian Bible. It's not mentioned
in the Old Testament.
No,
a lot of stuff in the Old Testament. There's things about how you give an abortion. There is someone called in, and it's true about that. But there's nothing about like this. And for Muslims, and we were talking before, Atheer, what is a general rule in Islam?
I'm not a Muslim scholar. We were talking about this during the break, but a woman can have an abortion under certain circumstances if it's like medically necessary, if it could affect her health or the health of the fetus or another fetus if she's having multiple babies. And there are different schools of thoughts of when that period of gestation or when it's allowed to
one of the main ones is 40
days when the soul enters the body.
Right. So in the first 40 days, you can have an unfettered
You're basically
discretion.
soulless. They don't even think it's like a real baby.
So my point is, when they're imposing this law in Alabama, it's based on an extreme conservative Christian point of view. It's not, they don't care that there's Jews or Muslims in the state, or even moderate or progressive Christians who are very proud to be Christian but do not view the doctrine the same way they do. In fact, it's not even supported by a majority of Alabama residents. But the tyranny of the minority is very present for us in Alabama. And then you have these 6-week fetal heartbeat bans that are no different. 6 weeks, 8 weeks that are Ohio, Missouri is going to happen now, Mississippi.
And it's like women don't even know that they're pregnant.
Yeah,
at that
by
point.
the time
they might not even know. And it's one thing, you can have your views till the end of time, but you do not have the right, or you should not have the right to impose those views on others. And what's important to remember too, with all of these laws, the women that will be impacted the most are poor women and women of color.
And they're already being impacted because clinics have been closing. And
clinics shutting down.
Yeah.
They can't travel as far. And it's also impacting just reproductive health in general and a woman's health in general. I mean, Alabama, I think twice in the last 5 years had the highest rate of infant mortality. So it's like the babies that you claim to care about so much. Why don't you do something about them? The ones that are already here and the women that are.
We have to go to break.
Too.
We have to go to break, but 30% of children under 5 years old in Alabama are living in poverty.
Exactly.
And it's one of the top 5 highest states for child poverty. And they don't care about the children who are born. They just want you to have them, and then that's it. So let's take a quick break, come back with more of the Dean Obadala Show.
Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.